TUFF SHIFT.
Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of TUFF SHIFT, the podcast where we unpack all that goes into surviving the job and living the dream. I am your host, Patrick Murtagh, and I always get nervous. I have to check what is behind me, even though it's slightly blurred. It always scares me, even though I have nothing really, bad behind me. I just remember that time in the pandemic when that news reporter had that thing behind them, that adult thing behind them that they didn't take off their bookshelf. I don't even have that in my house, but it's just always like, what's behind me? Anything incriminating? No, it's just a copy of Nelson Aspin's book, which is the third installment is coming out soon. We talked about it last week. It's coming out soon. Dance Between Raindrops, Ever After. Check out NelsonAspin.com, and we'll have more of that on the website and everything. I am coming to you bright and early from sunny Los Angeles. Sunny Los Angeles. And I have to say that because I've been so cold lately. And I'm looking at the East Coast being pummeled by snow, 20-degree weather, single-digit weather. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? I've been in LA for 2 years and my blood has already thinned. And so 40 degrees is freezing to me. And that's cold. 40 degrees is cold. But then, by noon, it's 85 degrees. And it's like, what? Are you really going to complain? This is your new life and you're really going to complain about being cold in the morning? Yes, I am. This is my new life and that's just my reality. Also, it's early and I'm looking a little worn because I am. I worked this whole weekend at the restaurant, and last night it's been crazy because it's Dine LA, and people are just piling in. And I got home from work last night knowing that today was going to be a marathon. I was going to have this interview early in the morning, and then it's tax season, so I'm going ahead and I'm having 2 different Zoom meetings with clients, and it's just like, but I got home knowing I had to start the day early, but also the new episode of that Game of Thrones show came out, the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, so I had to watch that, and it's February 1st, so I had to pour myself a martini to really celebrate the fact that I got through the weekend. And if you're not watching that Game of Thrones show, The Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I think that's what it's called, watch it. It's interesting. It's interesting. I know this is not a podcast about TV shows, but it is a podcast that deals with artists. It doesn't feel like it's in the same world of Game of Thrones, but it is a good show. I'm liking it so far, and it's only 40 minutes, and it just keeps, never before has it felt like it's flown by. And it's just it's a little lighter. I think we're going to get to the deeper Game of Thronesy type things. It's a little funnier. But it just flies by. I'm like, God damn it. I wanted more time. I wanted more time with these people. And now I have to wait a week until I get the time. And it's just, also there's a tall ginger. He's 6'5". That's part of his character, is that he's very tall and he's a star. So it's this knight who's not a high knight. He's literally just barely a knight, and he belongs to no castle. And it's about, the story will be his rise, his ascension. And I looked him up and I was like, who is this handsome fellow? And I looked him up on social media, and it's he's an actor. He's been doing it, but definitely not one of those actors that has a crazy social media following. And 3 weeks ago, I'm like, this guy's life is going to blow up. He's been working, he's been consistent, but he's really good in this show. He's really funny. He's got it, and he's hot. I'm like, the gays are going to, oh my God, his entire life is about to change. And even in the 3 weeks, you just start to see who's Duncan the Tall, who's da-da-da, that's his name on the show. And I'm like, I can't wait for that. I can't wait to watch this man just explode and get everything he deserves. Not just for being hot, but for staying with it, for succeeding, because, one person's success doesn't diminish somebody else's. Just because one person eats doesn't mean there's not enough for you. So we celebrate people's success here on this show. And even though I don't know him, he's Irish. Who knows? We know each other somehow by blood. I'm happy for him, and that's not part of today's introduction. It's just came out. That's it. We're talking about that. So if you don't have HBO Max, download it. Unless we're supposed to not download things right now, and unsubscribe to. I don't know what we're doing right now, but do the right thing. You know what you should be doing right now, which is the right thing and standing up for human rights. And now back to the scheduled show. I am really excited because this is Super Bowl week. Now you may think, like, when you think of Sean Patrick Murtagh, you're like, oh yeah, biggest sports fan. He loves football. Yeah, I don't give a shit about football at all. I don't care. I don't hate it. I'm not really one to yuck someone's yum. Even if it's not for me, it's like, celebrate, live your life, do it over there. I'll do mine over here. Like, that's wonderful. But the Super Bowl comes around every year, and it's almost like Christmas for me, because for as long as I can remember, just Super Bowl just means there's going to be a lot of food. There's going to be, giant, deli sandwiches, like 6-foot sandwiches from, Togo's or wherever you get, and chicken wings and chips. And so ever since I was a kid, the Super Bowl just meant massive amounts of food. And if you don't know me, I love me some food. And then there's the commercials, which in the past few years have not been as great as they used to be, but I'm still here for it, still waiting for them to return, still, waiting for big corporations to take their hand out of the creative process and let creative people go back to creating funny commercials that sell their product. But we'll get there, and they're funny enough. But also then there's the halftime show, which really is it for me. And this year, Bad Bunny is going to be the halftime performer. That's not revealing anything. It's caused a lot of controversy, and I'm here for it. Because well, we're not going to get into it. You already know the controversy, and I just can't wait for him to be amazing, because what he's doing is just being himself, and people are going to be mad about that. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to see him take that stage and people go crazy. And it's even just influenced my entire setup. So every year I host a Super Bowl party. And it's just almost like it's an extra Thanksgiving. Like I said, it feels like Christmas. It's an excuse to have friends over, to have family over, and to cook massive amounts of food, which is one of my favorite things. Growing up in the traditions and the cultures that I grew up in, bringing people together and just having more food than you need, it's an honor, it's a gift, and it's a privilege to be able to cook for the people you love. And any and all excuses I can to do that, I will take advantage of, even if it means watching a football game, which is interesting because in the past few weeks at work, we have, sports on TV all the time, and people have been coming in to watch the playoffs. Oh God, my hair, Jesus Christ. People have been coming in to watch the playoffs, and it's just been like, this is not a sports bar. We do have sports on TV because that's a thing in a lot of restaurants. I don't know why. I don't know why you need to have it. This restaurant doesn't need to have a TV, but they have it. And so it's just been the playoffs, and people have been treating it like it's a sports bar with woo and cheering and all this stuff. That's like, go across the street to the pier where all those bars exist. Like, stop screaming while I'm making drinks. Like, like I feel like my abuelita. Like, every time they scream, like, tanta uy, so animales. I just get like a little annoyed. I'm a little sensitive to annoying sounds. But all that to say, I've been talking to, because you have to pretend like you know what's going on, because you just gotta, as a bartender, gotta relate to everybody. It's like, oh yeah, God, the Patriots, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. I'm from San Francisco, the Niners, all of that, and I do it, and I do it well. But then, like, the people who know, like, that I don't give a shit, I like to tell them, like, it's awkward because the closer we get to the Super Bowl, the more I understand it. The more football makes sense. And the day of the Super Bowl, I am so in the game. And I'm like, oh, nah, fourth and down. And I don't know what that is. It's not the Super Bowl. So I actually don't know what I'm talking about. And even at one point when the Niners weren't doing well, which, surprise, they're not in the Super Bowl, but always go Niners because that's my home team. But this weird butchness comes out to where I just like, well, this is just how the Niners do. Like, they don't show up until the second half, and then they start really playing good, and it's like, where was that the first half? And then it's too late, and if they make it, they barely make it. If they lose, it's just by the smallest centimeter, and it's like, where was this in the first half? And it's like, who are you? Who? But it's a pattern that I recognize in my home team, and every year around the Super Bowl, if they're in the playoffs, if they're in the Super Bowl, I know exactly how the Niners react. And it's like, how? I don't know. It's a superpower. And so I just get so involved because the drama is so high that I almost think that I like football. And I think it's just the drama that it really drops me into the game. So much so that I'm like, maybe I should start watching football. Like, and so the season comes, the year passes, and the new season comes, and I start to watch football. I'm like, this shit is boring. Because it is. And it's just like, there's no drama. I don't give a shit. There's not there's not copious amounts of food and drink. So I give up and just wait for the Super Bowl. But it's going to happen this year, too. I'm going to be so in the game. The Patriots versus the Seahawks. Yes. Feels like 10 years ago. Well, I feel like I've watched this game back in 2016, which maybe they did play in that. Maybe that was that Deflategate. Who knows? I'm not that butch. But I can't wait. And so every Super Bowl, I try to get like the theme, like who's playing? Where are they from? Where is the game being played? What is that place known? When one year it was in Georgia, so I made these gimlets, but I made peach gimlets because it's Georgia. So I like to get inspiration. When Rihanna performed at the halftime show, I did a blue margarita, kind of just like in honor of the Bahamian flag and all that. And so I can't wait. And so this year, because Bad Bunny is going to give a phenomenal show, and it couldn't be a better time for him to perform and just watch people get mad about like, oh my God, he's going to sing in Spanish. And it's like, get mad, racists. So I am going to I'm still not decided. I texted my partner's cousin who grew up in Puerto Rico. I was like, what should I do? Because they love coming for my Super Bowl parties. And what should I do? Like, I'm stuck on the drinks. And she's like, why not a pina colada? It's a Puerto Rican, it's like the national drink of Puerto Rico. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. A pina colada. But I'm like, do I want to do pina coladas? Like, because that's a lot of sugar. And then I was like, but what about a rum punch, which is like no less sugar, but cuter. So, and pina coladas are cute. But like pina coladas, I feel are better when they're frozen instead of on the rocks. So I'm not sure. I'm going to get the ingredients for everything and see what I want to do. But the rum punch, it's kind of like, and I'm not a rum person unless it's like a good drink. And you just have to be in the spirit. And so I was workshopping these drinks at work, which is a perk of working at a bar, because you can just be like, oh, I'm just workshopping a possible drink for the menu. And so I just was like going through rum punches on Saturday, not drinking, just making and testing. And my boss is like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, just, R&D, just working on some rum punches. He's like, for what? And I was like, just potentially suggesting to the restaurant. But I think I want to do a rum punch. And if you don't know what a rum punch is, it's ridiculous. Like, it will spike your sugars. Like, Shelby, drink your juice, you'll be fine. But basically, it's white rum, lime, orange juice, pineapple. You build that in the glass, fill it with ice, and then you drop in grenadine. The grenadine sinks to the bottom and then starts to float back up about halfway. So you got that red and orange coloring. And then on the top, so you want to pull back on the rum. You don't want to do a full pour of rum, because on the top, you put dark rum. You put a spoon over the ice, and you just put about an ounce, like one single shot of dark rum on top. And then that floats. And so you got this like dark brown on top, the orange and the red. And it's just like this beautiful ombre coming from both sides. The gradation is just gorgeous. And you garnish it with an orange and a lime and a cherry and a piece of pineapple. And oh my God, like, I do not like sweet things, but I'm salivating. I think I've decided on the drink. I think that's going to be the drink for the Super Bowl. And I can't wait. And then the food. Girl, we don't even have time. I've been talking so much. I was talking about that tall glass of water from Game of Thrones that we got to get to today's guest. So we'll talk about the food next week afterwards, when I'm still in a food coma. And next week's guest, oh my God, I can't wait. I'm not going to say it. I can't wait for next week's guest. Let me just say this. I have to skip over what I want to talk about. We'll also talk about tax season and how to protect yourself in restaurants. But I also can't wait for today's guest, who this is his second time on the show. And he's someone that I talk about quite a lot and reference on this show when it comes up about the fact that, sometimes work sucks, but the best thing that comes out of it are the people you meet. And I've referenced this multiple times to be like, and this is how true this is, because today's guest and I only worked 2 shifts together at the restaurant where we both worked for, well, him, it was literally those 2 shifts. And I was leaving and he was just coming in and I was training him. And it's like that weird thing to where it's like you have to train somebody about the job and you're just like so disgruntled and wanting to leave. And I was just like, so this is how this is done, but this is how I would do it. And this is da 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 da, da, but let me tell you straight. And trying not to rain on their parade, but also trying to get out of there, but also not kind of like leaving them stranded and abandoned in a shit show. And so it's this weird dance. I'm actually kind of doing that now at work. There's a new bartender that I was trying to get my boss to be like, hey, you need to hire bartenders because wink, wink, nudge, nudge. 4 of us are actively working on getting out of here. So this one guy walks in, and I just had this conversation with my boss, and this one guy walks in, he's like, hey, I'm looking for a job. I was like, what are you looking for? He's like, well, I'm a waiter and a bartender. I was like, give me that goddamn resume. I went and walked it over to my boss. And he's hired and he's trained. And so he just finished training. And it's just like that thing of like, I need you to survive here because I need to get out of here. But this is not about my new coworker temporarily. This is about today's guest, just to really emphasize the impact someone can have on you and the amazing people. And so we hit it off. We maintained connection because he told me he was a singer and that he has, stuff out and published and released, published. Is that right? I don't know. And so that night I went home and I put him on Spotify and I listened and I was like, holy shit, this guy's deep. His music is deep and lovely, and he is just so lovely. And I can't wait to have him back. He has new song coming out soon, and he's wonderful. Preston Scott Straus, can I just shut up and bring you on the show right now? Do you want to talk? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, hey, John.
I'm talking in circles this morning, but
It's
because I
okay.
could sing your praises forever.
Aw, I didn't know if you could see me while you were doing your intro, so I didn't know how I should sit while you were doing that. I was like, you know, can you see me?
No, I hide people.
Okay.
And so that way it's just like focusing on this. So I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
thought I should have
No,
made that clear. So thank you for
no,
sitting
no.
absolutely
I,
still.
I was like, I wonder if Sean can see me right now. No, but
Now,
thank you for
welcome
having
to
me.
the
I'm really
show.
happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you are here and like you are coming off of a double double. Like, and
Yeah.
I mean, I look like I worked a double double. You, for people watching on YouTube, like you look refreshed and put together and well rested, and you just came from like a health spa. Like, you worked a double on Saturday and a double on Sunday. How are you feeling today? How was those? How were those shifts?
Yeah, I feel good. I'm lucky because I feel like I have like almost a limitless amount of energy. I think that sometimes, like when I'm working, like I don't even want to tell you, but if it's like a 12-hour day, which can happen on the weekends, my brain gets a little buzzy towards the end. But I don't know. I have like exercises I do to like prevent like overwhelm or stress, but and I just like I try to ground myself. But yeah, I mean, 12 days on a double on a weekend can be tough, but I've kind of acclimated because I've
Yeah.
been doing it since the summer. So
Yeah, once you're in that mode and you're going, like it is, yeah, and it's amazing if you have some people I think are built like just have an energy source that they tap into and
yeah.
can get it done. And as long as you are good with that and it's good to you and you're receiving what you need from that exchange, like yeah, that's great. I mean, I when you told me that you were working double doubles this weekend, I was like, I don't even remember the last time I worked a single double. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. So I applaud you for being amazing and getting through it and still making time to be here. So the last time that we spoke, every question that I ask is like, what was your gateway job? We covered that. What's a tough shift that really stuck out? We covered that. And when I bring people back, I want to give the opportunity because I say it a lot here, like not every shift can be a tough shift, right? because it just we wouldn't be here talking about it. We wouldn't be making our art. There are moments, and these are the moments that you actually use in an interview when you're at a restaurant with like, tell us about the time you made a human connection with somebody. Tell us about the time you went above and beyond. Tell us about the time that you really made somebody's experience. And it's a great these are great answers to have ready for interviews. But also when you really think about what we do in restaurants, and people come, I've said it before, people come to celebrate birthdays, anniversaries. They come together to mourn and grieve and celebrate the lives of loved ones. They come for the milestones, graduations, this, that, like getting your US citizenship, all these things, which, is very big to me because I remember when my abuelita got her citizenship and we went to Lions. Kids, Lions was a restaurant that was around in the 80s. It was a crazy time, but these are the things that happen. So I want to know, is there any shift in all the time that you've been doing this that really touched your heart and stays with you today? It could be an old shift, it could be a recent shift, just anything to where you've just like, wow, I was part of somebody's beautiful moment.
Yeah, well, I think like in general, I think like the human moments are like what like keep you like motivated in life. So like I've lived in Austin for little like about a year and a half now, and I've worked the same job. And I don't know, I guess like there's been people just from who came a year ago who've been like popping into where I'm at, and they're like, Preston, how are you? You moved to Austin, you're still here. How's it going? And like, I don't know, like there's like those standout moments that are starting to happen where people are remembering my face, remembering my name, and it's funny because someone was like, "Oh, I love talking to you last year. You told me so much about stuff," which I don't usually do a lot. I wouldn't say I'm guarded and private, but I'm a little private. But you create healthy boundaries in conversations. You're at work, but they were like, "Oh, last year you told us so much." And I was like, "Oh God, what did I tell you?" Like I was so nervous. Like, was I in a good mood that day? Was I like, what was my mood? Just preface before this follow-up conversation where I was at that moment. But fortunately it was really positive. So but yeah, I don't know. I think like the nice thing for me in general is when you have people like remembering you and you remembering them and you standing out to them. Because I think like anything in life, it's those like human moments that make us remember our experiences and make us want to go back. But I think if I just think something specific that I could draw on, oh, that's so tough. I don't know. I don't know. I just, oh, I'd have to think. But I don't know. I think
Don't you
overall in
worry. I think
general,
that was great.
okay. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
no, that
sad.
was great. And
Yeah,
you really hit on something about when people, you've created such an impression on these people, which is, it's kind of hard. Like I find like when people remember me and I kind of remember them. Sometimes it takes a context clue. Like if they give me their order, then I'm like, oh, vodka cranberry, or oh, Paloma, like all these things, and or the wine that they choose, and then I remember. But it almost feels embarrassing where I'm like, they remember more about me, but then you have to remind yourself like I'm serving, hundreds of people,
yeah,
thousands of people in a week. Like it's hard, but like I think it's meaningful when you leave such an impression that people are excited to see you and be like, and check in, not just on like how you're doing, but like, hey Preston, how is Austin treating you? Like that's a
yeah.
very great point that you're bringing. And having met you in life twice, I definitely understand the impression that you do leave on those people, because here we are, two almost 2 years later.
Oh, it could be
That's
more,
crazy.
right?
That's like that's nuts. Wow. Um, so that's cool. And so you've been at the same place for the entire time that you've been in Austin.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I did put my notice in, so I won't be working next weekend's my last days there. So yeah.
Congratulations. Can you share what's up next with for you?
Yeah. So, I during the summer I've been working two jobs. I was working like basically 5 p.m. shifts, 3 a.m. shifts. But I've been there since I moved to Austin, and it was my first job offer. Like I came to Austin, went in there, they offered a job. I was like, I'm new here. There's no room. Like I try to like really try to understand like where I'm at, right? Like I wasn't gonna be a stickler. I wasn't gonna like overjudge or overevaluate the restaurant, what they're doing. I'm new here. I need a job. I need a structure. And so I've been there for a year and a half. And, you know, of course, there were things like I think when you move somewhere, you pick up the first job offer, you're like, there's sometimes where you're like, do some things here align with me? Do they align with my experience? Can this place really like appreciate what I bring? What are they doing something different than what I'm used to doing? And like, how do you honor all that as well? But I was just kind of like, recently, I was like, okay, I know it's a little nerve wracking, but try and find something that maybe aligns with you a little more, that aligns with your experience, the thing that gets you excited. And so basically, I started slowly putting my feelers out for the past few months, not compulsive, not like, I got to get out of here, not anything like that. Smooth transition. And I found a really cool restaurant. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, based on how I am, I think most of us have like intuitive feelings about this, especially after being it for several years. But you walk into a space and you can gauge it pretty fast, you know? And I just, for months, I was driving past this place in downtown Austin and I was like, always like, hmm. And then one day I looked at the menu, I saw a job offering and I was like, please help me find something that is more conducive and aligned with where I'm at with myself. And I don't know, I went in and immediately I liked everything about it. And nothing's perfect. I don't put anything on a pedestal. I don't expect it to be perfect, right? But at the end of the day, I am excited to transition out and I've just been trying to trust the process. But, you know, yeah,
That's wonderful. I'm
yeah.
so excited for you, and like, what a great place to be. I've been to Austin twice, and I just the hospitality in Austin everywhere I have been, and it's been about 2-ish years since I last visited Austin. But it I just the hospitality of everywhere we went, from the hotel bar to De Nada, which is an amazing Mexican
And
restaurant in
yeah,
Austin, which you should
yeah.
go. I should have worn my shirt today since I was going to be
Day
speaking
not
to
a
you. They
shirt.
gave me they gave me a free shirt because
That's
I
awesome.
was like a kid in a candy shop. I was having so much fun. I was ordering
Yeah.
so much food because their quesadillas come out. If you have you had them before, and they're like empanadas, and
I
they're
had a
just like they're
taco.
like crack.
Yeah.
They're so good, and the margaritas
Yeah.
are so good, and I guess I was just, like, so joyful that the manager noticed, and our server came up to me and was like, "Hey, so our manager knows it's your first time here and that you're visiting and is really enjoying seeing you have such a great time, that you can go to the gift shop, and he wants you to pick out a shirt, as just, like, a little, like, thank you for stopping by and giving us a try." And I'm like, "I love this place so much," and I talk about
Yeah.
in LA, the hospitality world, there's a lot of good things that they do, but they
Yeah.
just don't seem to get the core of hospitality the way that New York does. Doesn't seem to get the core of hospitality the way that Austin does. So I want to unpack Austin with you. You had mentioned when we were talking about, coming back together to do this episode, one of the things you wanted to talk about was establishing a healthy work environment, the importance of a work environment. So I want to break this up into two things, and you can start however you want. But I want to talk about like establishing a healthy work environment within yourself and what you bring to the table, and then what is it that restaurants need to bring to the table for their employees. And so you can start with either side, but I think it's important that we break it up into two sections, because it's not
Yeah.
just the restaurant's responsibility. It's
Yeah.
not just the server's responsibility. It's the same way I talk about, that guests are as responsible for their experience as we are. If you're coming in for a bad time, I promise you, no matter what I do, you'll have a bad time. If you come in for a good time, I promise you, no matter what I do, because mistakes will happen, but guess what, baby? I'm gonna give you free shit. So it's all about what we do to create the world we work together in. And so I'm gonna stop talking and putting words in your mouth. Let's talk about
Yeah.
healthy work environments, because you suggested it, and I know that you have a lot to say.
Yeah. Well, it's so sorry. It's the morning, so you know, I gotta clear the throat. But let's see. To answer your question, I think okay, so we'll start off with the more personal side of things. Um, I think one of the big things that differentiates like healthy culture from growing, an unhealthy culture from growing, whether in yourself, in a business, in a relationship, as a group, is having like a goal in mind, having a task in mind, having a direction in mind, right? And I think like, because this was something I was thinking about a few weeks ago, because I've read so many books on like healthy work culture, how to be productive, how to do this, how to do that. And you get really good at like scanning a room, like, what is this room doing that is helpful? What is this room doing that is unhelpful? But then, like, one day, I think you wake up and you're like, okay, what am I doing that is helpful? What am I doing that's unhelpful? And you can kind of like shift it. And that's when the real work starts happening. And then you start aligning with places that hopefully align with where you are with yourself. But there's a few things. I'm so good with direct questions. I'm afraid I'm going to start rambling. Ask me
That's what
something a
this
little
show
more
is.
direct. I'm so okay. Okay, you're right. You're so right. Ask me
So what do
something a
you
little more
bring to the
direct. I
environment?
promise.
What do you bring? What is it that you bring for yourself to contribute to a healthy work environment? What are your
Yeah.
top three things that like this when I get to work, I'm not going to be the problem.
Mm,
I'm not going to and I don't need to be the entire solution, but I'm going to
yeah.
contribute. What are your top three things that you
Yeah.
think every person in this industry needs to show up at work to contribute to a healthy work environment?
Well, I always try to get a room to work with itself as opposed to against itself. Like every like environment with people is like a unit, and sometimes spaces, restaurants or not, they work with each other. They support one another. And some environments are passive aggressive with each other. They micro attack each other, and then people go into like high anxiety states and start losing productivity and trust in their job. So when I'm like in a place, I really start to just like understand and observe the room and see how it's operating within itself. And it's really like interesting because it's kind of like how I've always been, but it's really interesting kind of seeing how a room integrates and moves towards with its tasks, and basically it's like one of those things like let's just go directly with restaurants, right? Let's say someone drops something off at a table that's not theirs, and the person at the table is like, I didn't order that. Okay. And then the server goes up. They have like two options, right? They can solve the miscommunication error by going to the staff, going to the kitchen, and the kitchen can understand what they're doing and they can just solve the solution and move forward. We'll solve the problem and move forward and find a solution. Or they can go to the server and be like, why is this wrong? Go to the kitchen and be like, that server messed up. And boom, just like that, you've created two different results, two different environments, and both can get the result done, but both also have different causalities as well. You know what I mean? Um, if a room is high anxiety and ego driven and passive aggressive, it just leans into so much more possible behaviors that can happen. And then when a room is trying to see the best in one another, trying to just find solutions and have goals, it just changes everything. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's about being in an environment that has a task in mind. And I won't mention the restaurant, but the restaurant that I was in for the past year and a half, I think, I don't want to talk bad. I hate doing that because I'm very grateful and I'm really grateful I got to have that job, but for me, it was more so about trying to understand that I want to be in a space where people have goals. I want to be in a space where people have high standards. I want to be in a space where people look at every employee and no matter who they are, they respect them, And I think, like, I didn't want to tie this too much into some things, but I think sometimes, if you're a gay employee and you're in a work culture that doesn't honor or respect all types of people, sometimes you can unconsciously carry the weight of biased interactions, and you have to try and find a way to build boundaries with people who maybe have unfortunate subconscious ways of thinking of how you want to be communicated with. But I think no matter what in life, right? Life isn't perfect, but I think that my biggest thing is that at my current job, there were some things that were happening where I was like, wow, I don't feel like culturally these people understand how some of their behavior is unkind towards certain types of people, gay, queer, trans. but I think that, gosh, sorry, how can I not talk about it? Because I feel like every gay person or every trans person or queer person at some point in their life has gone into work environment, right? And felt like maybe this work environment doesn't respect me. And if I stand up for myself, am I rocking the boat? And if I rock the boat, will it hurt my finances? Because am I going to be retaliated against? And we live in a country that I think has done its job to try and support people standing up for what's right. But depending on what state you're in, you have more options, you know? Like in California, you're so protected from retaliation, you're so protected from discrimination. But like in places like Texas, you know, they rely on federal laws to help gay and trans and queer people have a voice in work environments and housing and culturally because there's not state protections for those people. So I think for me, I wonder sometimes if that subconsciously reaches into environments or maybe the environment that I was in, you know, that, you know, when
Yeah.
I was trying to push for higher boundaries, when I was trying to push for more respect, that was considered stressful or inconvenient. And so I think that, I just think that you have to try to find a way to stand up for what's right, but you can't, but it's tough because you don't want to face you don't know how the room's going to react. So basically what I've been doing in my life, sorry, but what I've been doing in my life is trying to stand up for what's right and trust that everything's going to be okay if I do it. You know what I mean? Even if it inconveniences some people's mindsets. But I don't know. I'm really looking forward to this new restaurant because it's managed by three women and it has a ton of gay and queer and trans employees. So I'm very excited to be in an environment that is doing higher elevated food, higher elevated service, and also has a more diverse staff.
Hey there, just checking in. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And if you are, why not leave us a 5-star review and a comment or two wherever you're listening to this from? And don't forget to follow us on social media at TUFF SHIFT Podcast. That's TUFF Shift Podcast. Everywhere. Literally everywhere. And just a reminder, gratuity's not included, but tips are always welcome. And you can find our virtual tip jar at tuffshiftpodcast.com. That's TUFF Shift Podcast.com. All right, back to the show.
It's interesting that you bring that up, and I think that's perfect because these are things that it doesn't matter what group you belong to, but these are things as queer individuals like you and I and other queer individuals, these are things that other people don't realize when we're vetting out restaurants or when we have to make it through our current place. And so you're not talking shit, you're not saying anything bad. You're what I say on this podcast a lot is we're being fair. I'm not I do have opinions and I do share opinions and those are subjective, but we also can talk objectively about where places are dropping the ball. And as queer people, this is what we have to look out for. This is what women have to do. Women, with this, they have a laundry list of things that they have to look for in workplaces, and obviously a laundry list of things that they endure or have to put up with because that's just the reality of the world until we get more and more change. People of color, women of color, no matter what other you are, these are realities that most people, if you're not in that community or in that other group, you wouldn't understand. Like, you know, people, that are so triggered by the term microaggression, but like it exists. And you would, when I share certain things with people about my experience as a gay man, as a queer gay man, as what I like to also call an undercover Latino, and the things that I hear when people just think that I'm some white boy and the shit that they say, people are sometimes in tears and they're like, I never knew you had to go through stuff like that. I never knew people said those things. And it's like, yeah. And for the most part, I don't even think people are aware of the harmful shit that they say. Some people are, and those people suck. But there are things and you have to look out for. And so the fact that you're going into a place and all of a sudden you're just like, great, it's run by women. So the male toxicity is out of the equation. There are queer people on the staff, but you're looking to be like, I'm going to be safe here, and it's not going to be a place to where people aren't going to understand how they're working against me or how they're making this an unsafe place for me, because some people aren't open to that, to be like, hey, just so you know, because it's cool when they tell you what you're doing wrong, but if you go to them, they're just not open to that. Like, you're too sensitive. It's always, you're too sensitive. I'm like, listen, buddy, me being too sensitive, it has nothing to do with you being an asshole. So let's just get
Yeah.
that straight and move on. And it's one of those things where, like, if you can't change something, you can change your proximity to it. And I think that's an
Yeah.
important thing for people to remember. Like, do not shoot yourself in the foot. Do what you need to do to pay your bills. I'm not telling you to leave, but I'm also not telling you to stay. So when you can safely leave a place that is not serving you, find what you need to do. Find aftercare. So you're at this shitty job, which I'm at, and you're not liking it. What is your plan? And sometimes just having that carrot dangle ahead of you is more than enough to get you through those shifts. I'm working on getting out of hospitality altogether, which is just, and so I have a list of things. It's hard. And like I was telling my partner, in getting out, I'm going to have to really lean in. I'm going to really have to lean into hospitality so that way I can make sure that I set myself up for success to no longer be in hospitality. And so I think that's really great that you made the most of the place, and even, you started off sharing good things about the place that you're at,
Mm.
and then now you realize it's no longer serving you and it's no
Yeah.
longer healthy for you. So how great that you had the not what is the word I'm thinking about, you had the vision
Fortitude?
and the foresight, there we go, to get out and to get yourself to a place that really gives you what you need, because like this job is so convenient for artists, but it can also be detrimental. And the fact that, like, I'm so spent physically, emotionally, and mentally, I got to sing a high C tomorrow. How am I going to sing a high C tomorrow when I've been
Yeah.
screaming over, ice shakers? I've been screaming over, cackling hens over in that corner celebrating this, or loud, rowdy men at my bar. And it's just like, oh my God, like, shut up, people. And it's like, and then just the physicalness of shaking drinks. And then my shoulders are up here. So it's like, it can
Yeah.
be detrimental in so many ways. So I'm glad that you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, because you're not
Yeah.
in this for any other reason than to get your shit done outside of the
Yeah.
restaurant. And I think that's a
Yeah.
great transition to talk about, because look at, we're already 40 minutes into this episode,
Are we?
because this is a natural and real conversation. All right. So I want to use that as a transition, as we're transitioning out of toxic places, to talk about you as an artist. So um, you have a new single coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. So February 13th, I'm releasing a new song called Car Rides. But yeah, it's the day before Valentine's Day, which I thought was kind of cool to do. But yeah, this song was like kind of like a roller coaster in a way emotionally. And I had said to a creative, because there's a lot of creatives in Austin and stuff. But I had said to someone, I was like, I feel like if the song doesn't feel like climbing a mountain, it's not worth it. And she was like, I don't know if that's always true. And I was like, well, why don't you think that's true? She's like, because sometimes things can just be fun and easy. But then I was sitting there and I was like, for me, at least right now, going into the places that bring out so much emotion, whether it's sadness or happiness or maybe a little fear, and turning that into a song. For me, it's so rewarding. And during the process, I have an internal mess, right? Like this song, I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Why am I talking about saying goodbye to my first love before he went to college? Oh my God, the memories started coming back. Then I realized that I had some blocks because, like, it was really just sad and a powerful emotion. And then I was like, so then the memories started coming back. Then I started tearing up. And then I started feeling what it felt like to be there. And then, like, I felt like I had this, like, moment where I was watching me and him in New York City saying goodbye to each other. And then even last night, because the song hasn't come out yet, I had more memories coming back. And it's just like really healing. And then I'm like, I think that might be the kind of artist that I am, or the kind of artist I want to be, is because like growing up, like I don't think I ever was like, I want to be a famous pop star. I think like when I was 18, I was like, I think I'm cute enough to try, but then it felt really out of alignment. But that's not how I am. That's not who I am. I think that if I could do anything with music or creativity, it would be to create the most human spaces that anyone can visit, no matter who you are. Like, and even if that means for the few weeks leading up to it, I am a complete mess inside and have to like do grounding exercises because it's just so emotional for me, that I'll do it. But yeah, I think taking one of the most highly emotional, impactful moments of my life and turning it into a song was tough. But I'm glad I did it. You know?
Yeah, and I think obviously if it's resonating with you and healing for you, and I just kind of want to tie it in to what we were talking about at the start of the show, where the impression that you leave on other people, to where it's like, oh, you remember who I am, and you remember I moved to Austin, and you're checking in on me. So obviously, what you do in your life at work impacts other people, and your presence, your joy, your radiance, your whatever leaves an impression on people, and you can have that relationship with complete strangers. So bring that same thing is true with you as an artist. If something is healing for you, if you creating this is great for you, trust and believe it's going to resonate with other people, because even when you did the first like soft launch, or the early announcement of this song coming out, and I read the description about, after these years, from when you were 18 and you dropped your first love, the car ride driving him to New York City, and this and that, and you're finally at a place to where you can share the song, exactly what you just said. I was like, I was misty. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what this song sounds like, but I know what it feels like just reading that description. And so many people can relate to that. And especially where there's still just not enough gay, queer love songs and love stories out there. And I couldn't wait, and I can't wait to hear it. And I'm so glad that you're doing it, because it is important. And the stuff that you share, uh, I love your music, and I love the joy that you bring. So with that, I want to talk about some of the other things you've done as a creator. You recently just finished up the autumn acoustic sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. That was, you know what? And that's one of those things where I think I wouldn't consider myself the bravest person in the world, but I certainly try to do things. And I don't know, I think some people from the outside are like, "Oh, you're so brave," or you like, "Oh, you really dive in." And I'm like, "Really?" Because I get very nervous. But yeah, I never done anything like that in my life. I was like, I live in Austin and there's a huge acoustic scene here. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like without sounding like full of myself, I think that sometimes the creative journey is kind of like the book in The Alchemist, where you're like thinking you're finding who you are. And then one day you go back and realize it was always here. And I think part of that acoustic journey was me being out here and trying to come back to here, but knowing out here wasn't bad. It just was what it was. But I am so grateful I did it. I'm so grateful that I found someone who's a beautiful guitarist and I did a little YouTube series. It looks nice, but I was like, every time I do something different or I put myself out of my what I consider a comfort zone, I remember who I was before I even started. And
Mm.
that's why I'm like really looking forward to sharing this new song and really looking forward to sharing more. Because also, too, when you do things maybe and you try things out, you have so much more respect for people who are doing them. Like, I have a lot of respect for people who play acoustic guitar and sing now, but I'm like, I was a little Cleveland boy in, you know, always wanted to go somewhere other than where I was. And I wanted to create a world that felt beautiful and create those quiet moments in my music that felt the most human. And so I'm doing it. I'm honoring it. I'm not trying to like appear or be something, you know? I'm just trying to be the most human I can be. And so that's the goal, you know?
I love that. And this is now, would you say, I think I know the answer, but like with all these projects that you have that you do, I really love how you what I loved about so people you've heard me talk about the autumn acoustic sessions when they were happening last fall. Um, it was Preston going back to songs that he'd already written and experiencing them in a different way, obviously acoustically. And I just love that you created this journey for yourself. It's not necessarily that you always have to be pumping out new songs and this and that. Like you wrote these songs, they're not just done. I love how you went back and you experienced them in different ways. I love how you take your songs and you share when you go to open mics, and you have For Love, which I love that song. And I've heard many different versions of it and how you share it, and it just keeps coming up, because just because I sing it once doesn't mean that that's it. Like these songs are meant to live and to grow, and also feel different as I live and I grow. Now, would you say that these projects are what keep you focused, and what are these the carrot on the stick that helps you prioritize? I'm doing a double double. I'm working these things, but I have this money coming in. And how do you kind of break that up? And how are you able to then prioritize
Mm.
the income you receive as a server and be like, I got to take care? Because I think this is important for people to know. Like, how do you prioritize? I got to take care of myself as a human being. I got to keep the lights on. I got to keep the roof over my head. I got to keep food in my stomach. And then I have to take care of the artist. I have to book this. I have to
Yeah.
create this. I have to buy this equipment. How do you prioritize that?
Yeah. I mean, I think certainly like working two jobs has its pros and cons. But for me, you know, you work at two jobs in the service industry because you have a goal, you know? And for me, there's always that thing in the back of my head, you know, and it's not all the time because it's like a passive awareness, but there's a goal for this. This is to build up finance and be able to have money to record if I need, to be able to move one day if I feel like a different environment serves what I'm trying to accomplish a little better. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's really like about yeah, knowing that there's something, there's a purpose behind both of those sources of income. And at the same time, it's really important to acknowledge, like, if you're experiencing burnout, it's really important to acknowledge the symptoms of it, you know, because like a few weeks ago, I started noticing I felt really deteriorated. I started to feel a little anxious. I was putting stories on things that where they didn't need to be, which in my mind is me
Mhm.
subconsciously trying to remove myself from what I've situated around my life. And so I was like really lucky though, because there was that big snowstorm, that ice storm or whatever. And for 5 days in Austin, I didn't have to work. So I kind of got a free vacation. So I didn't work 5 days in a row. So that was fantastic. I'm so grateful. Thank you. But like, I definitely
Thank you, Mother
needed
Gaia.
the, yeah, I didn't even have to plan it. But I think there's a few things. I think recognizing burnout when it's there, don't do it aimlessly. Make sure there are environments that are helpful to you overall, or environments that you feel that you can contribute towards. But I did have like a really awesome other point, and I really wanted to tell you, but it might have left. I'm so sorry. That's
That's
what
okay. It might
happens
come
when
back
you're an
too.
air sign. Yeah, what was it? Oh man.
It might come back, but you're always welcome back. And there's always so much more to talk about with you and the
Yeah.
adventures that we're on. So a little bit more before we say goodbye. I just want people to know uh, in one breath about Car Ride, its release date, and where and how they can follow and support you as an artist, and what they should expect. Like, so Car Ride comes out, like, is it this could be, people experience Valentine's weekend in many different ways, and this could be the love song that people need to hear that weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Car Rides, it drops February 13th. My name's Preston Scott Straus. Sean is so amazing for having me here. I'm very, very, very grateful. But yeah, it's a song about my first love when we were both 18 and dropping him off to college. And it's really a hindsight memory song. I didn't want to paint the relationship anyway. I just wanted to honor the truth about it. Sometimes when you look back on things and you're trying to remove yourself from them or overemphasize them in your brain, you put emotionality in them. And I said I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to be honest and be like, I was in love and was equally happy and sad when I took this person and took them where their dream was. And knowing that it was going to separate us, but knowing at the same time how proud of him I was. So I think that that's what the song is about. It's about honoring that place and knowing that, like, you don't
Mm.
have to label something as bad because it ended. You don't have to look at it like that. You can honestly look at it as where you were when it was happening. And so that song is about me honoring that moment and saying goodbye to him and how much I loved him. So,
That's beautiful. That's absolutely
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind dropping your handle and your website,
Yeah.
and so people make
Yeah.
sure to follow.
Yeah, so Preston Scott Straus, I try to keep it easy. So Facebook, Preston Scott Straus, one S. Instagram, same. My website is prestonscottstraus.com. But all the music's on Spotify and all those things. It's pretty easy nowadays for indie artists to do that. So I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, if you check out my YouTube channel, the video's already up. So at 12 p.m. midnight in New York, it'll premiere and yeah, it'll be there. Also, I'm hungry, so if you can hear my stomach grumbling, that's why I'm so hungry.
We will
I'm
get you.
like,
We will get you to your breakfast soon. I promise. I promise.
ah!
That's absolutely wonderful. And also, please follow Preston, not just for the beautiful music, but follow, and you will just see the joy and the silliness that is in his heart. He really makes the most of social media, not just as a musician, but as a human being, to be silly, to be sassy, to dance, to work out, to little thirst, little this, little that, a little bit of the entire human experience, and you will not regret following him. I promise. I promise. Now, before I let you go, I like to end the show the same way every time. We know that bad news travels fast. We know that it is so easy to complain and to say what went wrong that very rarely do we stop and take a moment to acknowledge when things go right. And especially in restaurants, especially as performers, bad reviews just seem to take on a life of their own, and good reviews barely make it to the post. So I like to say, when I have a good experience, I want to make sure people know about it. The people that need to know about it, my managers know who made my shift easier. When I'm at a restaurant and somebody's really stepped up, I want to let them know, like, hey, you got a great staff here. When I have a good customer service experience over the phone, which is if you can get a person on the phone, I will fill out those reviews. So with that, in that spirit, who is someone in your life, either in hospitality, in your personal life, as an artist, who has made a tough shift easier for you, that you just want to shout out and say thank you for being in my life and thank you for doing what you do?
Does this have to be restaurant related or can it be anything?
Anywhere in your life.
Okay, this is good. So, okay, literally ignore the grumbles, but Jason, I've been, no, ignore them. My stomach is screaming. It's like, feed me. But I'm like, quiet, shush. Um,
We got
okay,
two
so
minutes.
no, I love it. No, I can talk forever. And I just I'm like quiet. Um, so this was really nice. Jason Pennick is the producer I've been working with for several years. And I remember a few months ago, I was like, I think I rely on Jason a little bit too much. And I wanted to start taking a bigger role in the production of my music and building the instrumentation and tracks. And I remember reaching out to him and I was like, oh my God, I want to tell him that I want to take the lead on this song, but how do I do this without making him feel like I'm not honoring how good he is and how he's helped me in the past? And so I was really nervous, telling him like, hey, I bring these songs to you, you make them sound so lovely, but I want to take the lead on this one. And You know what? He was so unbelievably supportive and he was so kind. And he literally, I sent him the song a few times while I was building it. And all he did was offer advice. He was like, Preston, this part, maybe make this part a little more melodic, maybe do this a little bit here, a little bit that there. But he was basically being a mentor as opposed to a collaborator for that moment and really helping me to build myself as a producer because one day I'd love to produce for other artists. I'd love to produce for like young gay artists or any artist that I feel like would make the world a more beautiful, meaningful place where their stories being heard would be incredible. So as time moves forward and I want to be able to do that. And he was just really, really incredible. And by the time I went to the studio and got the song to him, he it was just so it sounded so polished and it sounded like me. It sounded like me and that was really nice because when I got to take a really major role in it. It was interesting how different it sounded to the other stuff. So I guess for him, I would say shout out to Jason Pennick for not only being a great collaborator, but a mentor in music. And if you're an artist who needs a producer or someone to mentor you, Jason is incredible.
That's wonderful. Well, there you have it. Jason, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for who you are. Clearly, the world needs more people like you. This has been another episode of Tough Shift. And just remember, tough shifts build character, and character is what brings your story to life. Take care, everyone.
Tough Shift was created and hosted by Sean Patrick Murtagh. It was recorded on Riverside and distributed with Buzzsprout. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and maybe a comment or two. And remember, tough shifts build character, and character is what brings your story to life.